The 1968 United States quarter dollar, minted in Denver, stands as a symbolic representation of American values, economic history, and the continuity of national identity through coinage. Featuring the iconic image of George Washington, the first president of the United States, this coin is part of the Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 in celebration of the bicentennial of Washington's birth. The obverse of the coin prominently displays a left-facing bust of Washington, designed by John Flanagan, a respected sculptor of his time. Above his head is inscribed the word liberty, emphasizing the foundational American principle of individual freedom, while the motto, "In God We Trust," appears to the left of the bust, signifying the spiritual and moral values deeply embedded in the nation's cultural and political fabric. Beneath Washington's neckline, the date 1968 is clearly shown, and just below the date is a D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint as a production facility for the specific coin. The reverse of the 1968 D quarter retains the original Flanagan design that had remained unchanged since 1932 until the later introduction of the 50 state quarters program in 1999. It features a bold and powerful heraldic eagle, a long-standing emblem of American strength, vigilance, and freedom. The eagle stands perched on a bundle of arrows, representing preparedness for defense, and is framed below by olive branches, symbolizing the country's desire for peace. Above the eagle, encircling the top rim of the coin, is the inscription United States of America, asserting the coin's national identity, while the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, appears just above the eagle's head, meaning out of many one, a phrase that acknowledges the diverse yet unified composition of the United States. At the bottom of the coin, the denomination quarter dollar is prominently displayed, affirming its face value of 25 cents. Compositionally, the 1968 D quarter marks a period transition in American coinage. Prior to 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper, but rising silver prices and hoarding led the U.S. Mint to switch to a clad composition in 1965. By 1968, the quarter was firmly established in this new format, composed an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper, often referred to as cupronickel clad. This shift not only allowed for cost-effective production, but also marked a broader modernization of U.S. currency in response to economic challenges of the 1960s, including inflation and metal shortages. The 1968 D quarter weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and features a reeded edge, a feature originally intended to deter coin clipping in earlier silver coins. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint struck over 101 million 1968 D quarters, making it a common circulation coin, though high-grade uncirculated specimens are sought after by collectors. Many examples have survived in circulated condition, bearing the typical wear and tear from everyday transactions, such as smoothing of Washington's hair details or the eagle's feathers. However, quarters that remain in mint state MS condition, particularly those graded MS-65 and above by professional services like PGS or NGC, can command a modest premium due to their relative scarcity in pristine form. Coins with full strike, attractive luster, and no significant contact marks are particularly desirable. Additionally, coins exhibiting proof-like surfaces or rare die varieties, such as double dies, die cracks, or off-center strikes, can hold added numismatic interest. Historically, the 1968 D quarter reflect a time of great social and political upheaval in the United States. The year 1968 was marked by the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, events that significantly shaped American consciousness. In this broader context, everyday objects like coins serve as quiet constants, familiar emblems of national heritage during turbulent times. The Washington Quarter, bearing the face of a revered founding father and surrounded by symbolic imagery of unity and strength, continued to circulate to the hands of a population facing uncertainty, serving as a small yet meaningful reminder of American ideals. As part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which would eventually span decades and undergo numerous design changes, the 1968 D coin stands at an intersection of tradition and transformation. It captures a moment when the United States was redefining itself economically and socially, while still anchored in the visual symbols and political philosophies of its founding. For collectors in 1968, D-quarter is more than just a piece of pocket change. It is a historical artifact, representing not only the evolution of American coinage, but also the resilience of a nation amid change. Whether found in a coin roll, tucked away in an attic, or preserved in a numismatic collection, this quarter continues to echo the voices of the past and the values of a country ever striving toward liberty, unity, and progress next top. The 1967 United States quarter dollar, bearing the inscriptions, United States of America, quarter dollar, liberty, and the date 1967, is a coin steeped in the rich historical, political, and economic context amid 20th century America. Minted during a critical period of U.S. coinage reform, the 1967 quarter belongs to a transitional era that marked a permanent departure from the use of silver in circulating coins, a move driven largely by inflation, rising silver prices, and the economic realities of the 1960s. The obverse of the coin features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, designed by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of Washington's birth. This dignified portrait, with the word liberty above and the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left of Washington's profile, remains a consistent element in American coinage, reflecting both national pride and spiritual ideals. The reverse design of the 1967 quarter, also by Flanagan, displays a bold image of a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows with two olive branches beneath, symbols of America's strength and desire for peace. Above the eagle arcs the inscription, United States of America, and just below it appears the national motto, E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, a phrase that underscores the unity of the states in a single federal entity. What distinguishes the 1967 quarter from many earlier and later U.S. quarters is its composition and minting history. Due to the Coinage Act of 1965, quarters minted from 1965 to 1970, including the 1967 issue, were produced without mint marks and struck from a clad composition of copper and nickel, specifically outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This was a departure from a 90% silver and 10% copper composition used in U.S. quarters minted prior to 1965. The removal of silver from circulating coinage was prompted by the increasing cost of silver bullion, which by the early 1960s had made it more expensive to produce coins than their face value. To prevent hoarding and restore confidence in the U.S. monetary system, President Lyndon B. Johnson and Congress implemented the switch to base metal coinage. The 1967 quarter was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, but due to efforts to discourage coin collecting during the coin shortage of the mid-1960s, no mint marks were used from 1965 through 1967. This makes it impossible to determine which specific mint produced any given 1967 quarter, though the majority were likely struck in Philadelphia. In terms of production volume, the 1967 quarter saw an enormous mintage of over 1.5 billion coins, a reflection of the U.S. Mint's attempts to flood the economy with enough coins to meet demand and suppress hoarding behavior. Specifically, approximately 1,524,031,848 quarters were minted in 1967, one of the highest mintages for a single-year quarter issue. This massive production means that 1967 quarters are still common in circulation and are generally considered of modest numismatic value in circulated condition. However, the coin also exists in special collector formats. Notably, the U.S. Mint produced special mint sets SMS from 1965 to 1967 instead of traditional proof sets. These SMS coins, including the 1967 quarter, were struck with higher than normal quality and often exhibit a satiny or semi-proof-like finish. Some of the SMS quarters from 1967 are especially prized by collectors when they display cameo or deep cameo contrast, where frosted design elements stand out against mirror-like fields. A small number of these high-grade SMS coins have been certified as such by professional grading services, and they can command significantly higher prices on the numismatic market, especially in MS-67 or higher grades. beyond the technical specifications. The 1967 quarter is a time capsule amid 20th century America. It was minted during the height of the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and a period of rapid social and technological change. It was also the year in which Thurgood Marshall became the first African American appointed to the Supreme Court, and when the Summer of Love symbolized a major cultural shift. As millions of Americans carried these quarters in their pockets, they were participating in a society undergoing tremendous transformation. The 1967 quarter circulated widely through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, students, activists, and families across all 50 states. Although many of these coins have worn surfaces today from decades of use, each one tells a story of the economic and cultural life of the United States in the late 1960s. In summary, the 1967 quarter is far more than just a piece of change. Its large mintage, lack of mint marks, copper-nickel composition, and historical placement within the post-silver era of U.S. coinage make it a compelling study in American numismatics. While common in circulated form and often overlooked by casual collectors, the coin offers insights into political and economic decisions that shaped U.S. coinage policy. High-grade examples, especially from special mint sets, remain desirable to serious collectors, and the 1967 quarter continues to endure as both a utilitarian object and a historical artifact. Whether found in a collection change jar or old drawer, the coin represents a tangible link to the values, challenges, and transformations of the American experience in the late 20th century next top. The 1966 United States quarter dollar is a fascinating coin minted during a time of significant historical, economic, and political transformation in the United States. Bearing the bold inscriptions United States of America, Quarter Dollar Liberty, and the year 1966, this coin stands as a tangible reflection of mid-20th century American society, values, and monetary policy. The 1966 quarter belongs to the Washington Quarter Series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the obverse front of the coin features a prominent bust of George Washington, the first president of the United States, facing left. Above his head is the word liberty, a central theme of American ideals, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," is positioned to the left of his neckline, affirming the country's religious and cultural heritage. Below Washington's profile is the year of minting, 1966, which places this coin at a unique point in U.S. numismatic history. What makes the 1966 quarter especially notable is that it was produced during a transitional period in American coinage. In response to rising silver prices in the early 1960s and widespread hoarding of silver coins, the U.S. Mint in 1965 made the pivotal decision to eliminate silver content from circulating dimes and quarters. Thus, the 1966 quarter, like those minted from 1965 onward, is composed of a clad composition, an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper. This copper-nickel clad composition not only solved the issue of silver shortages, but also ensured the durability of the coins for everyday use. Weighing 5.67 grams and measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter, the 1966 quarter maintains the same dimensions as its silver predecessors, but is distinguishable by its absence of mint mark and silver luster. Notably, due to the Coinage Act of 1965 and the Mint's efforts to prevent coin collecting from disrupting circulation, no mint marks were used on quarters from 1965 to 1967. This means that whether a coin was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it bears no mint mark, an anomaly in U.S. numismatics. From a historical perspective, the year 1966 was marked by widespread change and turmoil in the United States. The Vietnam War was intensifying, civil rights movements were in full force, and the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s was reshaping American identity. This turbulent backdrop lends the 1966 quarter a symbolic resonance, representing the endurance of American institutions amid change. Economically, the nation was adjusting to the new monetary policy of a fiat-based currency as silver was being phased out of common coinage, reinforcing the government's commitment to monetary stability and adaptability. In terms of mintage, Over 821 million 1966 quarters were struck, making it a common coin in circulation even decades later. However, examples in uncirculated condition, especially those with original mint luster and sharp strikes, are sought after by collectors. The U.S. Mint also issued special mint sets SMS in 1966, as proof sets were temporarily suspended. These SMS coins have a higher quality finish than standard circulation strikes and are particularly prized when found with cameo or deep cameo contrast on the surfaces, characteristics more commonly seen on proof coins. Numismatically, the 1966 quarter is valued more for its historical and transitional significance than for rarity or precious metal content. Circulated examples typically carry only face value, unless they are in exceptionally well-preserved condition. Uncirculated and SMS versions, however, can command modest premiums depending on grade, luster, and eye appeal. Collectors may also seek out examples with full drum lines on the reverse, the eagle's tail feathers, often used as an indicator of strike quality. The reverse of the coin continues a Flanagan design, a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows and surrounded by olive branches, symbolizing both military readiness and the pursuit of peace. The inscription, United States of America, arches above the eagle, while quarter dollar curves along the bottom rim, clearly denoting the denomination. This classic design remained in place until the advent of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, making the 1966 issue part of the long-running standard Washington quarter series. In summary, the 1966 Washington quarter dollar is a compelling artifact of U.S. coinage history, embodying a critical shift in the nation's monetary system from silver to base metals. Its design honors American heritage through the figure of George Washington and traditional symbols of liberty, while its composition and minting practices reflect broader economic and societal transformations. Though not rare in typical circulated condition, the coin holds enduring interest for collectors and historians alike, especially as part of the story of America's evolving coinage in the century next top. The 1965 United States quarter dollar, bearing the inscriptions United States of America, Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1965, is a historically significant coin, marking a pivotal moment in American numismatic history. This quarter, part of the Washington Quarter series, features a familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, on its obverse. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, this portrait has been a central element of the quarter since its introduction in 1932, commemorating the bicentennial of Washington's birth. Around Washington's image is the word Liberty arched above, while In God We Trust is inscribed to the left of his neck, and the date, 1965, is placed below the portrait. The reverse of the coin presents a heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and military readiness. Below the eagle are two olive branches forming a semicircle, representing peace. The words United States of America arc along the top edge with E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, beneath it, and quarter dollar boldly written at the bottom. The year 1965 is particularly important in the history of American coinage due to a major change in the metal composition of a quarter. Prior to this year, quarters were minted with 90% silver and 10% copper, giving them intrinsic metal value and a distinct appearance and weight. However, by the early 1960s, the U.S. government faced a severe coinage crisis, driven by rising silver prices, hoarding of silver coins by the public, and increased demand for everyday coins. This situation led to a shortage in circulation and prompted legislative action. The Coinage Act of 1965, signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, eliminated silver from circulating quarters and dimes. As a result, starting mid-1965, the U.S. Mint began producing quarters made of a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper-nickel, cupronickel, which gave the coin the silvery appearance without actual silver content. This new composition ensured durability while significantly reducing production costs and reliance on silver. Interestingly, all 1965 quarters were struck without mint marks, regardless of whether they were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mints. This was done intentionally to prevent collectors from removing too many coins from circulation during the transition period. The mint wanted the new clad coins to remain readily available for daily commerce, discouraging speculative hoarding. Moreover, due to overlap in production during the transition, a few 1964 dated silver quarters continued to be struck into early 1965, and likewise, some 1965 dated quarters were struck on leftover silver planchets. These rare off-metal errors are considered highly valuable among collectors, though they are extremely difficult to find and authenticate. The diameter of a 1965 quarter is 24.3 millimeters, and it weighs approximately 5.67 grams, slightly lighter than the earlier silver version. The coin has a reeded edge, a carryover design feature originally intended to deter coin shaving and counterfeiting. In terms of circulation, the 1965 quarter was produced in staggering quantities, over 1.8 billion coins, a reflection of the mint's effort to replenish the supply of quarters and counteract hoarding. Because of this high mintage, most 1965 quarters in circulated condition are not rare and are considered common. However, uncirculated or high-grade examples, especially those graded MS-66 and above by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can command a premium due to their comparative scarcity. Additionally, a small number of special mint set SMS quarters were produced in 1965, as the mint temporarily halted proof set production during the coin shortage. These SMS coins exhibit sharper strikes and more reflective surfaces than regular circulation strikes, but are not as polished as traditional proof coins. SMS coins are collectible in their own right, and are often found with satin-like finishes or mild cameo contrast. The 1965 SMS quarters were not sold individually, but were part of 5 coin sets, including the penny, nickel, dime, quarter, and half dollar. From a historical perspective, the 1965 quarter represents a turning point in U.S. monetary policy, reflecting broader economic and industrial shifts. It symbolizes the government's move away from precious metals in everyday coinage, a trend that would continue into the 1970s with the half dollar and the eventual transition of the dollar coin. Though not a rare coin by most standards, the 1965 quarter remains a key milestone in numismatics, often studied and collected for its significance rather than its monetary value. It also represents a departure from older traditions and the beginning of a modern, cost-effective approach to currency production. Today, finding a 1965 quarter in pocket change is common, but understanding the deeper context behind its creation and design reveals its enduring legacy in American coinage history. Next top.